I'm probably going to get myself in trouble for saying this, but I often find that the most unchristian and perhaps even anti-Christian things that I see posted on social media are not posted by non-Christians, but they are posted by people, parishioners, leaders, pastors from evangelical churches. Last year at Christmas time, I saw a post that kept showing up on Facebook that made me cringe every time I saw it. I found it hard to believe that Christians were posting it, and yet as I thought about it, I realized nobody but a Christian would post this. It was a meme or a statement that said the following: "The way you can tell a church is becoming worldly is the frequency with which you hear people of the church saying, 'Happy Holidays,' instead of 'Merry Christmas.'" This is not just wrong, it's utter nonsense. The way you tell whether a church or a person is worldly is not by whether they say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas. The Bible is actually full of statements that explain to us what God considers worldly behavior to be. Things like slander and gossip and pride, infidelity, oppressing or ignoring the widow and the orphan, the stranger and the foreigner, choosing injustice and oppression over mercy, despising your enemies instead of loving them, and embracing the anger James talks about that does not produce the righteousness of God. These qualities are what God tells us are the measure of our worldliness, not whether you say Happy Holidays. If you want to know what kind of life God wants you to live, I think there's an excellent explanation or description of it in the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. And I know I've talked about this in a video before, but it's worth repeating. In Micah chapter 6, the Israelites come to God and say, "God, what do you want from us? What do you want us to give you?" And God says, "I've already answered that question. What I want from you is to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with me." That's it. That, in a nutshell, is what God wants from us. So if you want to know if a church is worldly or not, if you want to know if your own life is worldly, then we can start with 3 simple questions. Am I just and fair in my dealings with others? Do I love mercy, even mercy toward those who have offended and hurt me? And am I humble in my walk with God? And I would say to you, if your answer to those questions is yes, then you go right ahead and say Happy Holidays all you want. And if your answer to those questions was no, I would say to you, it doesn't matter whether you say Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas, because you, like the Israelites in Isaiah 58, are coming to God with an offering that He does not care about. If you are more focused on whether someone is saying Happy Holidays or Merry Christmas than you are focused on justice, mercy, and humility, then your focus is very non-biblical. I fear that Jesus would say to the evangelical church today the same thing that He said to the Pharisees of His day. You pay tithes of mint, rue, and every herb, but you disregard justice and the love of God. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. Now, in the case of the Pharisees, Jesus at least acknowledged that what they were doing, such as it was good. They were tithing. That's a good thing. In our case, I don't think Jesus would even have that much to congratulate us on, because the Bible doesn't tell us that we should say Merry Christmas to each other. And even worse than that, Jesus never commanded us to try and force other people to say Merry Christmas to us. Our choice to force our own customs and language on others puts us directly in the path of Paul's reprimand that he gave in the book of Galatians toward a group of people he called the Judaizers. The Judaizers tried to insist that people wouldn't measure up unless they conformed to all of the rules and customs of the Old Testament times. Think about this. Paul referred to the Judaizers as dogs and mutilators of the flesh because they said people weren't good enough until they were circumcised. Can you imagine what Paul would say to us if we go around saying, you're not good enough until you stop saying happy holidays and say Merry Christmas instead? Really, this whole happy holidays versus Merry Christmas kerfuffle is something that the Christian church has brought on itself. Not only have we insisted that Christmas is a religious holiday, but we have also insisted that everyone else acknowledge and recognize it as we do. It doesn't work that way. If it is a religious holiday, then let us celebrate it in the church, and let others celebrate or not celebrate it as they see fit. Let us sing Joy to the World, while others are singing Walking in a Winter Wonderland. Do you know when was the last time I was in church singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and the Christmas police showed up and said, you have to stop singing that because it's too religious. Sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer instead? Yeah, it's never happened because there is no war on Christmas. In one of the greatest ironies of church life, we have taken a season of the year in which we are to celebrate the Prince of Peace, who made peace between those who were near and those who were far. And we have turned it into a season of anger where we wage war on people who won't greet us in the manner we want them to. Jesus came to bring peace to his nearest neighbor and his worst enemy. And yet we embrace anger against both our enemies and our neighbors because they will not greet us in the manner we want them to. Frankly, anger is easier than peace. Anger feeds my pride. I get to say, I'm one of the good ones because I say Merry Christmas instead of Happy Holidays. But if you think that saying Merry Christmas makes you a better Christian, then you have completely missed the point of what Jesus is telling us in the Gospels and what the apostles are telling us in their letters to the church. Let us be people of peace and joy and hope as we welcome in this season when we celebrate the arrival of the Prince of Peace. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and may God bless us all.